All right, what is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, as always. And today I have the luxury of being joined by my friend Blake Schneiders, and we are recording live from the WHB 810 studios. And we're going to talk about some of the recent COVID problems the Chiefs are facing as of today. And I got to check the date really quickly because I live under a rock. It is Tuesday, December 21st. The Chiefs had 7 players go on the COVID-19 list, and those players include Tyreek Hill, Blake Bell, Nick Bolton, Rashad Fenton, Kyle Long, Armani Watts, and Lucas Niang. But just yesterday, we had Travis Kelce go on the COVID list, Travarius Ward, Harrison Butker, who's already been ruled out to play this Sunday. So as of right now, the Chiefs are missing 10 players, which is not good. So Blake, what is your instant reactions to that, and how you doing, my friend?
Damn. Is my reaction.
Exactly.
That is bad news for the Chiefs. And I'm great, man. I appreciate you having me on. I know it's late night here at the studio, but we had to get a show in regardless because there's just too much breaking news right now with
Exactly.
the COVID. There's too much breaking news. And it's not just, I think this is actually unprecedented so far in the NFL, that it's not just the Chiefs that are being hammered by COVID. 47 players, I believe, today, either yesterday or today alone, have tested positive for some sort of COVID, whether they're asymptomatic, whether they're vaxxed, it doesn't really matter. They've just have COVID, or at least they've tested for it. Definitely a pretty big detriment, especially to the Chiefs, because they are in control of their own destiny right now. They're sole leaders in the
I haven't
first
talked
place
to you
in the
guys since
AFC.
then, but yeah, the Chiefs hold the number 1 seed as of right now.
We had an electrifying Sunday and Monday's worth of slate of games, and Saturday's slate of games, which really helped with the Colts beating the Patriots, the Titans losing to the Steelers, who are about to play the Chiefs this upcoming Sunday.
It's a miracle.
Who else lost that we need that the Chiefs needed to lose?
I think the Ravens lost too, but they're kind of so far down on the standings. But
it was a weird game that if the Browns on Monday night would have won, they would have been in first. They would have been in first place. Since they lost, they're last place in their division. It's crazy how that works.
And it's like that because I think that the Bengals, if they would have won, they would have been in the first place of the North. So it's just like football has the most parity that we've seen in years. Easily.
If people thought the 2020 season was crazy for football, no. 2021 might be just the most bizarre year for NFL football that I've ever personally witnessed.
When it's weird because, last year you had all the COVID restrictions and the rules that the players had to adhere to. You're seeing some pushback because I'm not going to lie, I don't really understand the COVID protocols. And I want you to explain it to me because you're more up to date and you can inform our listeners. But what I'm kind of getting a sense of is that these players, if they're asymptomatic, can still play. As long as they have a negative test later on in the week, but only if you're vaccinated. If you're unvaccinated like Harrison Butker, because he's already been ruled out for Sunday, you're just kind of shit out of luck. There's
So essentially, last year what you had was everybody had to follow certain protocols. The big deal about the vaccinations wasn't quite there yet because the vaccinations hadn't been rolled out to the end of the year. So it didn't really apply to the players. This year, the precedent was set that if you are a vaccinated player and you got, if you're a vaccinated player, you don't have to follow COVID protocols to a T like unvaccinated. If you're vaccinated, you didn't have to wear a mask. You were able to talk to, you were able to go in and out. I don't think you had to be tested every single day. I forget exactly how it started.
Well, last year, I think because everyone was tested every day. Last year, I think everybody was tested.
Last year. I'm saying the beginning of this year, they then, if you were vaccinated, you weren't tested every day unless there was a symptom issue or you were tested once a week.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then if you were unvaccinated, you had to wear a mask through all settings, inside and outside of the complex, or inside the complex for sure. You were tested every day, or at least 4 times a week, or something crazy. Like I couldn't imagine being a player and getting my brain swabbed that many times. Yeah. And I don't know if they were still doing swab tests at that pod, or if that time they were just doing I forget what kind of test they were. I'm assuming
spit samples.
That's what I thought, but I think it's not as accurate.
We're not
as
doctors.
I'm not a doctor.
You're a couple beers deep on a Tuesday night. No, and I'm 19 years old. We don't have any medical training whatsoever.
I feel bad because I feel like your fan base is gonna think that every time I hop on your stream that I'm just an alcoholic, that I'm drinking.
You're not.
It
but
just
I'm
happens to be that I'm drinking when you approach me about doing a show, and I say, of course.
We need this element to the show. The listeners are getting tired of just hearing me. So having somebody that's having a little
I'm
bit
already tired of
exactly,
hearing you.
exactly. I'm tired of myself. Hell, we had a 7-minute period where I couldn't spit out an intro.
True. The bloopers, which will be coming out later for me and Michael trying to get this show started, is hilarious. And we need to put that behind a paywall.
I don't know if we can just put those out on YouTube.
Anyway, so right now, as far as we know, and it looks like the NFL seems to be changed. As far as we know, if you are a vaccinated player and you are showing no signs, so you're asymptomatic, all you need is one negative test before game time. That could be 6 days before. That could be 10 minutes before the game starts.
But let me ask you a question now. So let's say Travis Kelce tests negative tomorrow. But
yes.
Can he avoid getting tested the rest of the week?
That is my question.
And what if it's a false positive?
And that is my question. Here's the deal. I think once you test negative, they don't test you again because you've tested negative.
It's interesting.
What if it is a false negative is a great question, but I think the NFL has pretty much done away with that. If you're asymptomatic and you're vaccinated, you're not going to get tested once you've tested negative again.
Yeah. And, like I said, Harrison Butker, and we're all about personal choice on KC Sports Report. I don't care what you do.
Don't give a damn what you do. Each person is an individual. You handle what you need to do.
Exactly.
How you want to do it.
But I will say, missing Harrison Butker in this game because you have a guy by the name of Elliott Fry, who is a former kicker. I believe he was with the Bears, and he was on the practice squad there and a bunch of different places. But you could very easily go into this game, and Elliott Fry could decide whether you get the 1 seed or not. Isn't that crazy? Elliott Fry didn't know who he was 2 weeks ago. If he does not make a kick, if he shanks a couple, you could lose the 1 seed.
It is crazy.
What a crazy time to be a Chiefs
Somebody
fan.
who played for the XFL, he was an Orlando Apollo, is what he was on the XFL.
Put some respect on his name.
He's been to the Baltimore Ravens, the Bears, the Panthers, the Bucks. I don't believe he made the team with anybody. He was with the Falcons last year, and it looks like he was actually on the squad itself. He was not just a practice squad member, but he was the backup kicker, at least for a while. He did a lot of shuffling around to all those teams in the last 2 years. Now he's on the Kansas City Chiefs squad, former South Carolina graduate. I know nothing about Elliott Fry. I wish I could be the Adam Schefter to be like, actually, Elliott Fry is a great guy. He did all... No, I got no film breakdown on Elliott Fry. I have no idea. But the fact that somebody who 2 years ago or a year and a half ago played for the XFL, played for the Orlando Apollos, and now has a shot to potentially keep a team in the number 1 seed, like, dude, the game of football is absolutely insane.
Right now, this is the craziest football has been in forever. Maybe of all time.
Yeah.
And it really is unfortunate because you're getting instances in which we saw with the Browns and the Raiders game. You're seeing guys that if they were playing, and it's not their choice, but if they were playing, they would more than likely win. But you're having cases like Harrison Butker this week where he is not going to be allowed to play. That's just the unfortunate circumstance that he's facing. And like I said, that could decide whether the Chiefs get the 1 seed. And I think that obviously the losses of Travis Kelce and Charvarius Ward and Tyreek Hill and all those guys on the defense, as of right now, are huge because you're missing 10 to 11 guys.
You're missing a ton of guys on your defense. You're missing your 2 best linebackers,
exactly.
Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. I mean...
But I think that Willie Gay could come back because he's been...
Yes.
10, no one knows.
This is the crazy part. And this is what I really don't... this is what I don't get, I guess, is why there's a difference between the protocol for unvaxxed and vaxxed players. To me, it makes no sense. And I don't think they can actually answer why it makes sense. That's just what they implemented. And I really think it actually comes down to an NFLPA situation where that is what they negotiated. And if they then take a different stance on vaccinations, they're almost forfeiting the whole fact that they're worried about player health and safety. Mm-hmm. And I understand that they kind of back themselves into that wall.
But at the same time, these NFL players are on Twitter like, no, we're tired of this. We are done. We don't want
also
this.
Not every NFL player agrees with the NFLPA.
Exactly.
They just don't. Cole Beasley, for example, who kind of ironically enough, also tested positive for COVID.
It's not funny, but it's ironic.
It is ironic. I mean, obviously, the good thing is not a single NFL player has had any severe, horrific symptoms or any near-death experiences from COVID. The only one we really know of as of today is Von Miller last year, but Von Miller also has asthma. He's got pretty bad asthma from what I know.
A week or something.
Yeah, and he was totally fine.
Yeah,
he's totally fine. We haven't had a single death of any NFL player, and again, I'm not like saying,
it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter.
I'm just saying, like, when you're prime peak health, which the best athletes, the best of the best of the best in the world, they're healthy, they're athletic. The chances of them having a severe reaction already isn't good. Are they going to get sick? Of course they will. Then I say that not everybody does, because you have people that are asymptomatic. You've got people that just, it doesn't bother.
And sometimes you just can't explain it, because I remember last year I made a video about Stephon Gilmore standing right next to Patrick Mahomes. He ended up testing positive the day after that game. Patrick Mahomes was literally that sounds weird. He was right up on him. And
mouth to mouth.
Yeah, exactly. But they were right up on each other, and that doesn't sound any better. They were right next to each other.
How many other ways can you put it, buddy?
I'm struggling right now. But Pat didn't get COVID, and Pat's, I guess, has the booster shot, so he's, as of right now, good. But I think that, we're seeing an instance in which this could definitely decide how far the Chiefs go in the playoffs.
Well, and something that I actually was talking to Sterling Holmes of Sports Radio 810 earlier today, and something that he brought up, which I thought was interesting, was it's happening to a lot of teams that are in playoff contention right now. And it's not happening to a lot of teams like the Detroit Lions and the Miami Dolphins. Hell, the Miami Dolphins might still technically be in playoff contention. But
they are, I think.
You're seeing it happen to a lot of teams. Like, you had the Browns, you had the Chiefs, you've had the Washington football team is no longer. Man, I really gotta.
We're all struggling here.
We're all struggling
on
today.
Tuesday night.
But so it's happening to teams that seem to be in playoff contention. Hell, it happened to the Ravens, who
are already a practice squad. But when you add the COVID stuff to
they've had the injury bug bite them hard. I think there's a couple cases out of Green Bay. So
yeah.
It's just an odd time, and I think the more that you're seeing cases explode, you're also seeing the NFL starting to relax their protocols, because they went down from you have to have 2 negative tests in a 24-hour span to now you only have to have 1 negative test
all week.
Yeah. So I think the NFL is seeing, because they lost a ton of money last year with the fans not being allowed in the stadiums. They lost a ton. They also lost a little money when you didn't have primetime guys in primetime games. So I think when it's getting down to crunch time this year, especially getting closer to the Super Bowl playoffs, when all their money is now going to start pouring in on the double, the NFL is looking at their bottom line rather than COVID as a national health crisis or whatever you want to call it. They're really starting to look at this
it's
like
a business.
It's a business. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a business. Do you want your business to thrive or do you not? And all of these players, well, I don't want to talk in absolutes. So majority of the players, and I think we've talked about this, and this has been one of my contentions since the very beginning of COVID. This is a game in which players, grown-ass men, sign their name on the dotted line to play a game in which they could either die or become paralyzed for life.
Yeah.
How worried are they about a virus? Some people are.
I'd say a lot of them aren't.
Most of them, I would say, just knowing a lot of football players and hearing the way they speak, are not worried about it because they already play a dangerous game.
Looking at the data, and again, however you align, it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
When they look at it, they weigh the risk to reward, and the reward of the paycheck outweighs the risk to them.
Exactly.
And that's why they do it. But also, one thing that I find interesting is if you're asymptomatic, I guess really quickly, if you only have to test negative once the entire week, are you only allowed to take 1 test? Or can you take a test 3 times a day, every single day, and just one of those tests has to be negative?
I think that's it. I think you can take at least 2 tests in a 24-hour span, or at least 1. I know you can take at least 1, and as long as it's negative, and I think that's
the problem.
The NFL
you can manipulate the system.
This is the NFL stepping in, going, "Hey, as long as you got 1, you're good to go."
Yeah.
Because I think again, the bottom line is their paychecks.
And I also think that, when you come down the stretch and you got a week 17, week 18, there's 18 weeks this season.
Yes, there is.
When you get down to that point, and let's say the Chiefs lose tomorrow, but the Patriots then also lose. They don't play tomorrow. I don't know what I'm saying.
No, I know what you mean, though.
But if they played and it was an important game, in week 17 or week 18, if a player is asked, are you good enough to go? Like, you've got COVID, you're asymptomatic, are you good enough to go? If a player who is as competitive as these guys are, he's not going to be like, nah, I don't want to go. These guys, Ronnie Lott chopped off his finger so he could
play. Chopped off his freaking finger.
He chopped off his... You see guys like Ray Lewis that tear every ligament in their arm and they just hold it while they go make tackles. They're not scared of an asymptomatic virus, even if they're infected. There's guys that play with the flu, like the Michael Jordan. I mean, we're crossing sports here,
crossing
but like
sports.
You see guys that are reeling through sickness and they still perform.
Let's just take COVID out of it. If you had the flu, let's go back 2 years, 3 years from now. 3 years ago, you had the flu, but you weren't throwing up. You just felt like shit. Or you were Terrell Davis and you had chronic migraines.
Yeah.
You're still going to play.
Yeah.
And that flu could still infect somebody, and that flu can kill somebody. The flu used to kill a lot of people until COVID came, apparently. But it's one of those things where it was never an issue because the flu, anybody can get the flu. And there wouldn't be any protocol for that. It's up to the player whether he wants to play or not.
Some guys get flu shots, some others don't.
I would actually love to see the numbers on players getting flu shots.
I don't know. But the point is like when you get the most competitive athletes on the planet, and you get them in a room.
Some of the healthiest competitive people in the world.
When you get them in a room and you're like, this is an opportunity not only to win, because that I think is what a lot of them care about. Yeah, that's a great quote, for greatness.
It's an opportunity for you to be a legend.
It's an opportunity for greatness, but it's also an opportunity for you to make more money.
Exactly.
And if you're sitting there, like let's say Tyreek Hill's sitting there and he's like, I'm not feeling anything. I'm good to go. I might have a slight headache, but my knee, I can't feel my knee. like there's like instances in which you get towards the end of the season where guys are still going through a lot of pain, but they still play. Now, I'm not saying that pain's contagious, but I think that almost comes down to an honor code in the final couple of weeks of the season. Like, okay, you say that you're good to go and you are asymptomatic, but are you good enough to go? Like that's gonna be a question. And I think that the NFL is gonna find that a lot of these guys that have minor symptoms aren't gonna report them, because why would they? They've been dealing with broken legs and torn ACLs and just getting banged up for 17 weeks. Why would they report this? I just don't think that that's something that especially guys that are fighting for a championship would do.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'd like to see. I guess I'm a little confused on the vaccinated players. How often are they tested?
I don't know.
Because if they're vaccinated, and again, we already I'm going to lay the ground rule or the ground statement of does not matter whether you're vaxxed or no. I mean, like it doesn't matter if you're vaxxed or not, because you can still get it. And you can still pass it just as easily, regardless of your vaccination status.
But if you are vaccinated, you're less likely to suffer some of the long-term
effects. But my question is why is there a difference? And I'm probably just talking to the wall here, but why is
talking to me?
Well, I'm talking to you.
I am
built like a brick shithouse, my guy. So
that quote, that's going to be an off-the-air thing. But I heard that quote recently, and we all started dying laughing. So I've never heard anybody else say that.
You're a stout guy there, Michael.
I appreciate it. Maybe.
Heck, you should play fullback in the league, buddy.
With all of these COVID cases, maybe sign me up. I'll be ready to go on Sunday.
Hey, if Michael Burton all of a sudden, just for some, God forbid, for some reason can't play, Michael Darcy.
Put the pads on. Give me a 1-day contract. Let me work for the media team afterwards. Let me shadow Mitch Holtis.
There you go.
Sign me up. I'm going in.
I'm a jack of all trades is what you are, guy.
I'm pitching my resume right here, right now.
So I don't understand why there is a difference in protocol. Like for Harrison Butker, they've already ruled him out. But I've heard conflicting stories on whether he is or is not vaccinated. So my question is if he is vaccinated, but they're already ruling him out, and all he would need is a COVID test, a negative COVID test, does that mean that his symptoms are so severe he already knows he can't play?
He's not having symptoms, though, from what I've heard.
So then why? So he must not be vaccinated. And in that case, if he's asymptomatic and he's not vaccinated, why can't he play?
There's no reason.
There's no reason.
There's no reason.
And this is what makes me so mad is there's no logical continuity to these rules. It's as if they were just made out.
And guys, again, not trying to go all.
I think we've said that enough.
Yeah.
We're just scrutinizing a policy.
Exactly. We're just talking and pinpointing an NFL regulation and an NFL rule that they've put into place, which has been constantly changing.
Exactly. And why has it been changing? Because it's messing with the bottom line. But anyway,
I think society and I'm going off on a huge tangent.
No, it's okay.
I think what society is trying to do, what society has been kind of preaching for the better part of the last year, I think that's seeping into the football world. Because when you really think about it, why should a guy that's asymptomatic who tested positive, but let's say he tests negative on a Friday before the game, and really quickly, we're going to find out on Friday what the real state of this Chiefs team is. Because, I'm not really worried about like Tyreek Hill and Blake Bell and Nick Bolton and all those guys right now because, one negative test, you're back on practice field and you're fine.
Travis Kelce, one negative test.
Exactly. So we're just kind of breaking the news as we're seeing it. But, there's a good chance that, like we said, Harrison Butker, he's not going to play. But why is it that someone experiencing the exact same thing as some of his fellow teammates, but because one thing
held
happened,
to a different regulatory status or held to a different protocol, it makes no sense.
It doesn't. It makes no sense.
So, and that's just us griping about the rules of the NFL has put into place. And again, I think it goes back to how the NFLPA has negotiated their terms, and so they just can't change it because it would. They've always been clamoring for player safety, but then it's just the social pressure that people are going to say, "Oh, you didn't care about player safety." It's just I think they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, and that's why there is these different rules. But if we're going off just logic based, it doesn't make sense.
I think like most things in life, it should come down to personal choice.
I agree.
I think if you're in an instance on Saturday, let's say Saturday night, you've got Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Harrison Butker all sitting in a room, which probably wouldn't happen because Harrison Butker has COVID and he's unvaccinated, as we are seeing it. But let's say they're all sitting in a room and you're giving them a chance to play or not. I guarantee you that no one would sit out of this game. That's not the kind of players this team has. And I think that it's not just the Chiefs. This is an NFL thing. You don't get to where you're at in life if you're an NFL player by not playing through stuff.
No. Not at all.
Especially if you're just having a minor headache.
Again, there's always been a huge discussion within football. I played college football. I've gone through many different coaches in my life. The question was always, are you hurt or are you injured? Mm-hmm. Can you play through the pain, or can you play through this? Can you play through that? If you have the flu and you might be, a little nauseous, or maybe you have a headache, or maybe you have this, can you play through that?
Poisoning.
You have food poisoning. You're yakking, but you can still play.
Who had food poisoning earlier this year? It was Julio. Was it Julio? No, it was AJ Brown. He had Chipotle in it.
Oh, yeah, and it jacked his whole system
up.
I think that was against the Chiefs.
Or the week before, but I think
maybe it was the week before. Yeah. But no, so it is just interesting to kind of see what they're... Well, originally how they reacted to it, and then now how they're kind of walking that back a little bit based on... We're getting down to the big money portion of the NFL season, and that's like if, I've seen some people out there that says that they need to suspend the NFL for, 2 or 3 weeks, which would back everything up. And the NFL can't do it. It's not like the
Super Bowl
NBA.
In March?
Yeah, it's not like the NBA. You can't just – there's 82 games in the NBA. You can shorten a season just like they did for baseball. You can shorten it to 60 games. You can't shorten the NFL season more than it already is. And they've just expanded – I know they just expanded the season just recently, but –
and if you're going to shorten it, you got to shorten it from the very beginning. Because
it does not work mid-season to just do that with this many games left in the with this lack of games left in the season.
I agree. We were about to take a drink. I
was going to say I didn't want to take a drink if you were going to take a drink.
This is broadcasting etiquette. I know, but honestly, I think that we haven't really talked about the 3 players that tested positive last week. You got Chris Jones, Willie Gay, and L'Jarius Sneed. Yeah. Did L'Jarius Sneed ever test positive? Or
I don't think L'Jarius Sneed tested positive.
I think he was out for family reasons.
For outside issues. The other thing that
I wanted
to
horrible, by the way.
The other of course it was. I don't know if you covered an episode on that.
I haven't, but I addressed it minorly like that. Yeah. I don't blame him for not playing.
No, not one bit. Yeah. I mean, when you have a family member who essentially, especially not just a family member, but essentially a fatherly figure and an older brother that passes away all of a sudden. I mean, that's not something that you can just, I'm going to go. Now, has there been players in the past that have done it? Of course there has.
Some players need the being out there with their teammates, but who knows if that would have been a detriment.
Everybody
to his
deals
game.
with certain things like that in a different way, and all the power to L'Jarius Sneed. And I know that he really wanted to be around his teammates, but of course he also needed to be around his family members and. There is no, so nothing against L'Jarius Sneed. That was completely understandable, and obviously it didn't hurt the Chiefs. They went out there and won an electrifying game.
Exactly.
It was probably the best overtime game that I've seen in a while. And you know what's funny is I know that you're a little younger than I am. What are you, 19?
Yeah.
God damn, you're young.
Young buck here.
Young buck in here, Michael Darcy. But I think what's so funny is that walk-off win that the Chiefs had versus the Chargers reminded me of a walk-off overtime win that Michael Vick had against the Vikings in 2004.
I think I saw that because
he runs for 65 yards in electric fashion and splits two guys like bowling pins in a bowling ball. But to me, that's what that reminded me of, is something so electric where Travis Kelce just hawks it for 40 yards and a touchdown, avoiding everybody and their mom on the way to the end zone.
And he tests positive for COVID the next day.
And then he tests positive for COVID the next day. So it's kind of a crazy scene that we're seeing right now. But if we're looking forward to the game, let's just say all of these players are out, even though we do know that there's a handful of guys who have a possibility of coming back.
Let's say half of them play.
Yeah. Let's say what is it? What is it at the moment? 12 guys are out?
Yeah.
10 guys are out?
10 or 11 or 12, yeah.
11 or 12. Okay. Let's just say 6 of them play. No, screw that. I want to do a little thought experiment if none of them play.
Okay.
What is your expectations? So you got Pat playing, you have Mecole Hardman, you have Demarcus Robinson, you have Darius Fountain, you got Byron Pringle.
Oh, we have Josh Gordon also tested positive.
Josh Gordon tested positive, but he's also in that same list that could come back.
Okay.
But let's just assume he's out.
Okay.
Let's assume he's out. And let's also assume that Blake Bell and Travis are out. Mm-hmm. That means you have
Noah
Gray. Does Michael Burden play a little tight end and you don't do as many fullbacks?
He will on Sunday.
How do you see this game playing out if every single one of those players is out?
Honestly, I think that
is there confidence still left in the Chiefs?
Oh no,
no.
Because let's think about this realistically.
Yeah.
Defensively, let's say you're missing Chris Jones, you're missing Willie Gay. Now you're out your best linebacker,
and you're missing Nick Bolton.
Now Nick Bolton, your two other top corners in Charvarius Ward and Rashad Fenton, outside of L'Jarius Sneed, who's probably not going to play. You're running out of options. And who knows? Tyron could test positive tomorrow. You don't know what this could look like the rest of the week. It could be the whole team has COVID by the end of the week.
Could be. We're going off right now.
Yeah, right now.
If you had to play tomorrow, what's the outlook for your hope in the Chiefs game, or what does the game plan for the Chiefs look like?
They got to run the ball. If Clyde wants to survive in Kansas City after next season, I guess he's here for a couple more years, but if he wants to actually have a chance to thrive in the NFL, he's got to have a good game on Sunday. If you don't have your top two options in Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and Mahomes is dealing with Byron Pringle and Demarcus Robinson, we've got to see a lot more little dump-off passes to Clyde and Darrell, get those guys in space. But I think that's got to be a game in which Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes out there and says, hey, I was worth the first-round draft pick. I might not be playing like it, but you drafted me to come in and produce in games like this, because that would probably be his best opportunity to actually get 25 to 30 touches. I could see them going with Clyde and Darrell a lot of the game, especially against a Pittsburgh Steelers defense that's not very good.
It's not. They have a great defensive line.
Yes.
Other than that, they're pretty garbage. Their offense is so
one of the worst offenses I've ever seen.
But my thing is I agree with you. I think they have to run the absolute crap out of the ball. But I think what the Chiefs have, and they haven't, because they're not a run-style team, they haven't really been able to perform this way. But let's just say you threw these three running backs that the Chiefs have into the Ravens' offense, where it's a run-heavy team. That would be a three-headed monster. I truly believe Clyde Edwards-Helaire brings a lot to this team in different ways. His vision is really good. It's just his performance sometimes, I think a lot of Chiefs fans question. And I think that could be based on play calling and scheme calling. Is he a red zone guy as much? Not so much.
No.
That's not what we're seeing. Darrell Williams is the heavy hitter when it comes to the red zone. He's also great at catching the ball in the backfield. We'd like to say Clyde is good at catching the ball out of the backfield.
We've seen flashes.
We've seen flashes of it. Again, Clyde is something right now that has a lot of potential and has wowed fans on small amounts here and there.
It's like a sculptor that's sculpting something, but he walks away.
Yeah.
It's like you still got the clay, and you're starting to kind of mold it and shape it.
That's a really good leg and arm, but like the left half of the body
everything else.
So I think that so they all complement each other though too, because Darrell does really well what Clyde doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you bring in a guy, and you know this, Michael. I have been preaching this guy since preseason, since I heard he signed to the Chiefs. Former teammate of mine, Derek Gore. I played at Coffeyville Community College with Derek Gore. Also super nice guy, by the way. The guy is going to be a starting running back in this league somewhere. And the fact that he's playing behind two guys right now and still getting opportunities. I mean, look what he did 2 weeks ago. Going for 60-yard run, 60-yard touchdown run at the end of the game. He's done every time that they've asked him to do something, he's been able to do it. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run on the goal line. He's got great vision like Clyde does, but he can catch just like Darrell does. Maybe not quite as good as Darrell because Darrell apparently mosses people in the end zone.
I think Gore's more shifty too.
I think he is too. So this is a three-headed monster, and if they really decided to all of a sudden switch up the game plan, and let's say, God forbid, Patrick all of a sudden before game time because he's been around all of his teammates, comes down with something. Chad Henne, three-headed monsters at running back. You change up your game real quick. How are you going to – if somebody runs the ball 50 times a game –
If you go New England Patriots against the Bills. If you go New England
Patriots or the old Panthers, or you do anything like the freaking Vikings used to do, where they just gave the ball to Adrian Peterson 30 times a game. You give 15 to Clyde, 15 to Darrell, 15 to Gore. That's 45 rushes in one game. The defense is going to be tired.
Yeah.
They're going to be tired, and you're also going to run the clock down. So all you got to do is get 2, 3, 4 scores, and the game is sealed. It could be a 21 to 10 game. It could be a 28 to 10 game.
But here's the problem, and I like the thought. But Harrison Butker not playing in this game. If you can't punch it in, you think Elliott Fry is going to bang a 50-yarder? I don't know.
See, that's the thing. I don't want to talk negatively on Elliott because I don't know enough about him.
Well, let's call it like we see it. He's not really ever played in the NFL.
True.
So, I understand there's a lot of talented guys that never really find a home, but Harrison Butker is arguably, and I argue this all the time, he is the second best field goal kicker in the game. Behind Justin Tucker, there is nobody better.
Exactly.
And you can't just replace that with a practice squad guy.
Not at all. It's not like you're trying to replace like a Cody Parkey or even Josh Lambo, somebody like that. Some would say he got kicked out of Jacksonville. Only real ones get that reference. You're not going to replace, and it kind of goes back to like one of these scenes in Moneyball where they're trying to replace Jason Giambi. You're not going to replace Giambi. You're not going to replace the second best kicker in the NFL. That's just not going to happen. What you have to have somebody who's going to be quality. And then you also have to switch up your game plan. You're probably going to go for it a lot more on fourth down. You're going to go for 2 maybe more, depending on how if he comes in and shanks let's say they score twice and he shanks the first 2 PATs. I think you're going for it the rest of the game on going for 2. That's just how the game evolves.
They might go for 2 regardless of if he's hitting them or not.
True. And that is a question that the Chiefs have to ask themselves. Do we want to just say, hey, because the Steelers potentially could be dangerous? And I think I think you're going to see exactly what the Chiefs are going to do in the first 2 drives that they do it. Mm-hmm. I just think that this is going to be a game that is going to be either, depending on who plays, and right now we're talking as if nobody's going to play.
We're just assuming no one's going to play.
I'm going to assume nobody's going to play. That's just taking it base level. It's going to be a knockdown, punch down, drag out,
old football game.
Old school, Steelers, football, Chiefs, kind of, they've never had like classic Steelers, Chiefs matchups that weren't pass heavy.
That's old school pound the rock
exactly.
football.
And honestly, I would love to see it.
We have the offensive line to do it. You've got 100%. One of the best offensive lines and run blocking in the league. You should be able to pound the rock.
You tell Creed Humphreys and Trey Smith to nut the hell up and strap that chin strap on tight, and I promise you tell those boys to do it, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
You say, hey, boys, we're running the rock 45 times today.
They're going to be cheering.
We're going to have 60 plays, and 45 of them are runs, all right, boys? Let's go. Because that's the kind of ball that they play.
That's also what offensive linemen love to do. They love run blocking.
I mean, if you look at Creed and Trey, which, by the way, those two are probably the best draft picks the Chiefs have had in a while, just based on the fact of how they're performing at such a high level as rookies in the NFL, in one of the hardest positions in the NFL, which is the offensive line. The grit and determination and just nastiness that they play with, I love.
Have you seen the blocking up front?
Oh, it's disgusting.
There was an instance, I think, last week where I can't remember who it was against, but Derek Gore caught a pass, and he just kind of motioned Trey Smith in front of him, and Trey Smith is just like the battering ram in front of everybody.
Trey Smith will throw his elbow into the back of your helmet and then get on top of you on the ground after he pancakes you and talk crap on your mom. That's the kind of guy that Trey Smith is, and I freaking love it, Michael Darcy.
I love it too, and I think, hopefully some of these guys can play, but I think it's pretty unrealistic to think all of them are going to play.
Obviously, it makes the game intensely harder. Now, if the Chiefs lose,
very good possibility.
Let's say, with what we know now, let's say the Chiefs lose at this point. Where does that put them for their scenario then? Because they're still in control of their own destiny. They don't have a problem with losing the AFC West. But where does that?
What I've seen is if the Chiefs win Sunday and the Chargers lose, you secure the AFC West. If you win on Sunday, you secure a playoff spot. The playoffs aren't really in doubt right now. You're going to make the playoffs.
Are not in doubt
unless you choke the living hell out of this season, which even then, you've got...
Even then, I don't think you're still going to get out of the playoffs. You might have a wild card spot, but I don't think you're out of the playoffs.
Exactly.
Maybe mathematically, not necessarily completely in 100%, but damn near.
Yeah, you're gonna make the playoffs, but if you win this game, I mean, you got Cincinnati the next week, you got the Broncos at home. I think if there's ever going to be a time in which you could have all of these guys miss games, it's against the Steelers. The Steelers' offense, I've talked about it. They're so bad.
It's so bad.
They don't. Big Ben can't throw it farther than 15 yards.
They have about 2 weapons, a 1.5. Najee Harris, which he is going to be a stud in this league, especially if the Steelers can go forward and find a quarterback for the future. Obviously, it's not going to be Mason Rudolph. It's not going to be Ducky Hodges. I'm sure that
Haskins, not going to be him.
Not going to be a former first round pick, Dwayne Haskins. It's just not.
Yeah.
But Najee Harris was an absolute get for the Steelers. He has been fantastic this year. They're just a god-awful team, and it's hard when you're a god-awful team.
They don't have a good offensive line either.
They don't. And he's still putting up crazy numbers. The dude caught 14 passes in one game, which receivers don't even do.
Yeah.
And he's a good running back.
And when you're missing 3 of your top corners, assuming that Travarius Ward, Rashad Fenton, and L'Jarius Sneed do not play in this game.
I expect L'Jarius to play, but
we're going
off.
I think if you get to that point and Sneed's like, I don't know if I can play, it's like, dude, we need you more than ever in this game. But like, I think that the Steelers don't really have the offensive pieces to just run away with this game, even with the Chiefs down 11 players, assuming they don't play. Like that's incredible. But I also think that we're gonna have to handle business on offense, and your defense. You could have guys like Colin Saunders starting at nose tackle. Like
exactly.
You don't know.
You have Derek Nottie, Colin Saunders. You're going to have
Ben Neiman and
Deshaun Wharton going to be coming off the, it just depends.
Mike Dana.
You're going to have Alex Hitchens or
Alex Okafor.
Anthony Hitchens. I'm sorry. I've got the two names mixed
Minor
up.
stroke.
Anyway, prior joke. Sorry.
The first 7 minutes of this podcast,
which we should definitely put out. But you're gonna have Ben Neiman and Anthony Hitchens. You're gonna have Alex Okafor, which weirdly enough, Alex Okafor, when he has played, has done some impressive things this year, more than he's stood out last year at all.
Well, he was terrible in the first 4 games, but recently he's been good.
Recently he has stepped up, and I think he's found a little bit of edge to him. So it'll be interesting. You also have got Armani Watts out, so you're going to see a lot of Dan Sorensen. You're going to have a lot of Thornhill. You're going to have, but they don't have many backups for that. So it's just a weird.
Oh, they elevated Zane Anderson from the practice squad.
Cool. Who?
Yeah,
exactly.
Safety.
And again, that's no hate on Zane Anderson, but it's like
and DiCaprio Boodle.
Gonna leave it alone.
Thank you. The listeners, thank you.
Yeah. So it's gonna be. Honestly, I'm gonna be at this game.
Oh, really?
I'm excited because it's gonna be such a toss up. I think we're gonna see a lot of crazy things. I'd love to see Byron Pringle show up and show out.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Noah Gray take a giant leap forward and knowing that it's all gonna come down to him.
And the Steelers are such a bipolar team that they could come out and drop 3 points, but they could come out and they could drop 37. Like there is they're not going to drop 37, but
no, not against the Chiefs.
But they have shown that they can beat some good teams, or at least hold in against some good teams.
They can make some teams struggle. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a very interesting game. I think Andy's going to kind of empty the bag on this game because if you win this game, the rest of your season doesn't matter.
I mean, you gotta.
I say that, but
it does matter, guys.
I say that, but at the same time,
no, but I get what you're saying.
Because if you win this game, you're on. You're pretty much in uncontested.
Yeah, at least the playoffs. And at that point, it's just like, all right, you got the Bengals who.
Yeah, I don't obviously mean the season with the playoffs because that's a new season.
Yeah,
once you get to the playoffs, the season restarts.
Yeah. So
metaphorically.
Yeah. So. I mean, I thought this was a great episode.
This is a fantastic episode, my man.
And, given the fact that it is almost 10 o'clock, actually it's almost 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night, I'm glad that we were able to do this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking me to join the show. Me and Mike were working late because we were...
run 8-10.
Yeah, we run 8.
This is what we do. This is just what we do. And
basically, 8-10 wouldn't run without us.
If any of our bosses are listening, we love this station, and we'd love more hours.
And we definitely don't run this because we just do what you guys tell us to. But
very grateful for 8-10
we were covering
for letting
some
us use the studio.
We were covering some KU this week or today, and Michael was running the women's game. I was supposed to run the KU men's game, and then all of a sudden they just Colorado players had COVID, so we ended up saying, hey, let's do a show instead. So
worked out perfectly.
Gave you some info, kind of tried to break enough stuff down for you guys as far as possibilities, COVID protocol, the confusion between just...
Two-beer Blake. I'm so good at this. Like, I am very good at
sloppy schneeds.
That's it.
That's going to be what my title is next time we do a StreamYard cast.
Exactly.
Sloppy schneeds.
Oh, man. All right, Blake, where can the people find you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter.
Not at Sloppy Sneeds.
Not Sloppy Sneeds. You guys can follow me on Twitter. I do. I pretty much usually tweeting stuff, sports related, daily, weekly for sure. I do a ton of coverage on football. I do a ton of coverage on MMA if you guys like fighting or boxing at all. So you can find me at Wake and Blake 29. That's Wake, capital N, Blake 29 on the Twitter sphere. That's pretty much where I do all my stuff. And if you guys, just a shameless plug, if you guys do want to go over and check out the MMA podcast that I do with my buddy and recent producer who is going to be joining the team, Michael Darcy is going to be the producer for us for our MMA podcast. It's called B Cut MMA on the YouTube. That's BCUT MMA on YouTube. So that's where you guys can find all my stuff. And Michael Darcy, obviously, I thank you so much for just having me on and continuously making me a guest, buddy.
We have to have the
killer
spotlight. That's just
we should. You just let me know. I'll start doing funny segments.
We'll plan it because I think I love having you on. It makes it easier. I think we get good content out. And
we always do.
I think people enjoy it. So let us know down in the comments if you guys enjoyed this video. Kind of informative. Kind of some comedy was thrown in there too. But I think the overall message of the podcast was a choice is a choice, and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, well, I think this was a great podcast for just kind of like talking about, like verbalizing things that I think people have questions about for the NFL. Yeah,
like these are current. Sports is a microcosm of life.
100%. And people like, I think the more bigger sports fan you are, the more you understand, especially if you've played sports. It is a microcosm of life. Everything I've learned playing sports, even up into the college arena, I 100% apply directly to life, and it applies directly to sports. And it's funny how that works. So yeah, I always appreciate your fan base right now, Michael, is killer. They're very active in the comments section. They're very active on your live streams, which is killer. So yeah, support Mike as much as you can. And if you guys want to throw me a shekel or you guys want want to say what's up to me, come on over to my channel and we'll have some fun.
Yeah, and you guys can find the show on Twitter. That's at KC Sports Report, and Instagram is KC_Sports Report. Go follow Blake on Twitter. It's Wake, capital N, Blake 29. And yeah, we will see you guys a later time with another video.
Peace!
Thank you for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed it, hit that like button, comment, and subscribe for more of the best Chiefs content on YouTube. You can also follow us on Instagram for more of the latest updates on future videos, as well as instant Chiefs news right after it happens. You can also support the channel via the Patreon, as well as buying merchandise from the KC Sports Report store on Teespring. The links to all of those websites will be in the description. You just listened to the KC Sports Report, presented by Michael Darcy.